So the first phase is just a solo. I'm gonna play some music. I'm gonna maybe say a few things during it, but mostly it will be music, and it will be each of us soloing, really getting into our bodies. And I suggest you either turning around your computer, like just so that you don't see the screen at all. So that, and also, well, I would just suggest turning around your computer. I was gonna say, like, you can also just, everybody could turn off their video, but I think it's just kind of nice symbol of solidarity if we all turn around our screens. So yeah, go for that. I wanna see it. I wanna prove it to me. Yeah. Cool.
Great.
I love it.
Drawers and bookshelves.
Oh my God, it's plants. So cool. I would take a screenshot, Lindsay, because the textures are so cool. It's like a tapestry. It's a total tapestry. It's a what do you call one of those? Quilt. It's a quilt. So I'm gonna play some music for about 5 minutes, and we're gonna go into our solos. This is your time to move with the energy in the space, in your space, knowing that we're all moving together. Finding your own individual solo, warm up, arriving. So just giving yourself another moment in your solo and finding a transition back to turning your screen around. And see how you can stay connected to your body, to your moving body, to the energy that's moving through you in that way, to the cellular sort of energy that movement creates. And as we all come back, we're going to take just a few minutes, like, to hear from a few people. And the question is, like, what's it like to be moving in a space where you're definitely not being watched? Everybody's screen is turned around, but you know that somewhere at the same time, in the same vocabulary, in the same context, others are moving. What does that do for you? What does that change for you in your spirit, in your perception, in the way that you are with yourself? Or does it change? And anybody can unmute themselves and speak and reflect on just those 5 minutes, what that was like for them.
This is Owen. I was so excited the whole time that I had a little trouble connecting with what I was doing. I just felt so excited to be with everybody.
This is Meta. I was relieved. I was so relieved that I didn't have to have the computer in my vision. It just felt really good.
This is Toby. I'm in Philadelphia. This is the first time I'm doing this. So I've been at Earthdance, but I haven't done any of these. And I realized that I don't know any of you. So I wasn't paying attention to that. Anybody else was in the room. I really was realizing I needed to pay attention to me. That I've been kind of zoomed out. And it was nice to get away. Thank you.
This is Ari. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes,
Oh, cool. I felt like definitely a sense of, like, I wonder how other people are responding to this music. And it has so many lovely layers. And so I would kind of get lost playing in my own kind of sensation of it, but then also really curious, like, oh, what's going on over there? And so I still felt my attention tethered to the computer, that place of connection, that like portal. Even though I couldn't see any of you guys, I kind of sort of started to imagine that I could. And there was this moment when I like sort of had this imagination of someone reaching out their arm and like how I would respond. And that was kind of fun. So I definitely still felt connected.
Thank you, Ari. How about one more, and then we'll move on to the next phase if someone has something that they want to say about that experience for them.
I do. I can see myself. Oh, here. I felt supported. I felt more able to drop in, like in that sense of like holding myself more accountable because I was part of a tribe. Thank you. Hi, Alyssa.
Nelson or Robin, did you want to say something? Because I saw that you unmuted. Was there something that you wanted to say about that experience? For some reason, you're still being muted. It's not muted, but
check
we
your
can't hear.
output volume level, Robin, and come back to us maybe later.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to move on to the next phase. The next phase is kind of interesting. So it's another like 5-minute solo time. We're a little bit more in our bodies. This time I'm going to, or Alyssa, either one of us, or even Lindsay also, what we can do is we can spotlight a screen, and when you spotlight a screen, that screen is what everybody's seeing in a big way. And you can always take it off by putting it back on gallery, but we're gonna just continually spotlight different people randomly. So the idea is like you're dancing now, you're solo with a sense of you might be in the spotlight. You might be being viewed and being seen and being witnessed by others. Chris Aiken, like one of my major teachers and mentors, always says this thing when we're warming up. He says, warm up as if Michelle Obama is in the room. Like warm up as if she were here watching you. Meaning like even in the warm up, even in your solo, there's this like amount of rigor and integrity and clarity in your movement. So this is not about performing. This is about really finding the authentic movement from within. But it's also about like what kind of attitude, what kind of perception, how does it fill you to feel that you might be being witnessed, you might be being supported by other people's eyes. And we're all watching with a sense of generosity, of course. So I'm gonna put on another 5-minute song, and each of us are gonna dance, this time with the screens towards us, and you can either be dancing or you could be looking at your screen and seeing who is being spotlighted at that time. So there'll be people dancing, there'll be people watching, and you can go back and forth, and you can also just dance the whole time and just see how this feels and how this sort of affects your perception. Okay, here we go. Coming back to something. Bringing your stool with you if need be. Framing yourself ever so perfectly. Yeah. Yeah. And turn your screens back on gallery if you haven't. I'm gonna have Alyssa speak first as the person who is sort of choreographing all the videos.
Oh my gosh, what a pleasure that was, y'all. That was so fun. Because I was like improvising the video. So it would be one person rolling on the floor into the next one with their knees up on the floor into the next one. There was Meta up on a chair, and there was like the musical shifts. There's a moment when someone comes up close and then I switch to them and then they go backwards. Oh, it was so fun to interact with each of you and then also have you design how you were interacting with each other. I felt like I was playing goddess over here. So fun. Thanks.
How was that experience for others? Feel free to unmute yourself and share what that was like, or whatever from your experience.
Well, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So from my side of the experience, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. But I think the one thing that I struggled a lot with during that was almost not sensing. I think I don't remember who said it, but the quote that like improv's too fast to actually sense. And it felt the whole time that I was just kind of like almost pre-planning what I was going to do, which I think was a really big struggle for me. And so that's something I want to try and I guess work on.
Oh, your sound is really choppy. We can't really understand your words. I don't know if you can
Okay.
That's better.
Can you hear me now? Better? Yes? No?
That's better.
Okay. So I think the big thing I had struggled with was I didn't feel like I was so much subconsciously sensing my environment as I was kind of almost pre-planning my movements out of what I was going to do. And so that's something that I know that I felt like I struggled a lot with, was kind of this idea that I wasn't so much, I was dancing, but I wasn't so much in the contact improv kind of style of mindset.
Thank you, Carl. Anyone else?
Yeah, I love that. That was really fun. I loved, it was dancing, but yet, it wasn't just like always dancing by myself here in my room, but it was so cool to know that all these other people were included, and then just to see everybody in their environments, doing their crazy things. That was fabulous. Really fun.
I loved some of the frames were just of someone's feet, or like someone was really close to their video, so like you would only see parts of the body, and it was just so lovely, the different perspectives.
For me, it was a little bit like an underscore, where you're sort of in the dance and then you can sit back and watch, jump back in and out.
Okay, you can take it off if it's distracting too.
There was kind of a sweetness seeing these little moments of different people and their different rhythms and personalities. Yeah, really, I really enjoyed it. It's like, oh, it's like I want to just watch.
Yeah.
Too. I felt sometimes a little torn. My attention kept shifting, yeah, back and forth.
It was fun to get ideas from other people. And at some points I was dancing with other people, and sometimes I was just dancing by myself. But I noticed there was a common movement, and that was I'm being asked to mute my screen somehow, and I saw a lot of people kind of do this, and it was just fun to see that as a movement phrase. And it also made me think of, it would be really fun to get a recording of that, like get the recording of that, and then play with the movement vocabulary that came out.
Yeah.
That would be fun to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to say.
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead, Erin.
I'm having a lot of fun with interacting with this device and this media in a new way, because usually if you turn the screen on yourself and like you start dancing, it's not playful, and it's not what I've experienced in improvisation and other sorts of places. It's really fun to bring the playful world into this screen and into this medium in this like no stakes playful way. It's great.
Yeah. Any other last comments of what that was like, and then we'll move into a different phase. But I'm curious if anyone has any other thing that they want to say. Cool.
I noticed that there are holes in my space where I fall through when I'm dancing. So there's a kitchen right here. And when I turn and all of a sudden the kitchen's there, I'm in the kitchen on some level. And, or in the living room, or, in different spaces. And it's very different than dancing in a studio, where there's this sense of being held by the space. My home doesn't hold me at all the same.
Right. Right.
I haven't figured out what I'm doing about that. Part of my dance was spent thinking, or at least my warm-up dance was spent thinking, okay, I need to put something so that I can contain the kitchen, so that I'm not falling into it.
Right. Right. Or somehow like reabsorbing it so that you enjoy the fall, because that's what we've been like training our whole lives to do, is enjoy the fall. You're muted, Nita.
And that as well.
Yeah.
So when I'm in the kitchen going through the window, for instance.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Go. Like what is Steve?
Also doing but these are like lights. As interesting, I have to say, as is this window of the computer, is that new shaping of the space in an unexpected moment.
It kind of reminds me of training with Steve Paxton, and I remember at one point in the training, someone asked him like, what should I do when I get really dizzy? And Steve just replies, be dizzy. Cool. Does anybody else have anything that is happening for them before we move on to the next thing?
Yeah.
Jackie? Cool.
Hi. I found that really freeing. In the first part, I was finding myself like moving in ways that I usually move, but I haven't moved in months, or at least a month. And then in the second part, I noticed like just getting more into it. And then when I was highlighted, I heard a very loud, "Oh no," in my head. And then I just like let that be what it was and got into it. And the next thing I knew, somebody else was highlighted and I was like, phew. But it was freeing because it like brought me deeper into it and then like let me just be a part of the show. And it wasn't like too much pressure on me because we were moving through them so fast, and
Right.
it turned into a comedy to see everybody doing different things and how it was curated. Alyssa was really fun. So I just found it like freeing in my movement and in my mind too.
Cool, thank you. We're gonna move on to the third phase, which is kind of fun. The third phase is we're gonna go into breakout rooms with 3 people in each breakout room. And in the breakout rooms, the score is this, like each breakout room is gonna have 15 minutes. You're gonna divvy up the time and in your own way, but I suggest, and we'll post directions, that each person has 3 minutes to solo and be witnessed by the other 2. So it's a lot more in the frame of authentic movement. I don't want to go over what authentic movement is right now, but it's just about really being witnessed by people who are witnessing you with a sense of generosity, and you're moving not to perform anything, but you're moving as an expression of what is really happening inside of you authentically as best you can. And it will just be interesting to be being watched or being witnessed in this virtual kind of space. So the score is that each person will have 3 minutes to move in their solo while they're being witnessed by the other 2. And then there'll be like 5 or so minutes where the 3 of you can have a conversation with each other about what that was like and how that was what that was like in your experience. I'm so curious to hear, it would be great to hear from each of the rooms and just hear what that was like for people. I'm so curious.
Hi, I'm Shuting. For my group, like for my partners, it's interesting to see her explore with 2 pillows. She danced with the pillows on the floor and the wall. It's kind of interesting to see her using different body parts to make contacts with the pillow, like adding different pressures, like, yeah. And for myself, I firstly just danced the solo without any props, but later my dog just accidentally like come close to me, so I just danced with her for some while. Yeah, for some time it's my first experience, and it's interesting because it's different to then like I touched her fur. It's kind of so soft. It's different texture that I danced with other objects before, and also it's interesting to dance with the space between her and the floor. So yeah, that's for me.
So I'll just also add that if you feel more drawn to writing your response into the chat, that's also welcome. So Kara wrote here, Toby wrote, 2 of us felt we had done a mini self-portrait of our lives right now. And Shana wrote, fascinating, connecting, fun, meaningful. Thank you.
I'll talk since I, okay. I don't usually talk. Yeah, I loved that. I loved both of my partners had 2 people in each of the screens. So that was really fun to just see like actual contact duets and to see the different spaces. One of them, I got to see the Earthdance barn. That was really cool because I missed that place. And this was my first time really getting into my body in this way since, before my baby was born, probably since I was like 6 months pregnant. So that is just amazing to be able to, it's hard for me to make it to a jam. So to be able to like be in my baby's playroom and get to move my body feels really special, and to get to see old friends. Thank you guys for hosting such a beautiful space.
I think this is an opportunity to think of the space as a partner. And the three of us had different types of space. So it was interesting to see how that affected what moves were chosen and how it was either hemmed in or not. I like to think of the space as a sort of an opportunity or a partner. So I really enjoyed watching the contrast there.
I got so into my own dance that I went off screen, and my partner wasn't able to see all of my dance, and I didn't even realize that until we started talking.
When I do authentic movement, there's always a part of my mind that's with the person watching me. And I think that's part of the beauty of authentic movement, is feeling the support of your partner's gaze. But it was really interesting here to know that my partner is at the other end of the country, and that they're watching me through a box. And how just something about how I orient to that partner, and the fact that I have to be mindful of staying in the frame, for example, even though I'm supposedly only moving for myself. And just the whole thing of seeing each other through the internet waves was really weird. Something, and teasing apart I got to tease apart the witnessing from the moving just a little bit more.
There's something I loved about moving with two people I'd never met in physical time. And we went right into it, like no discussion before, and just the intimacy of that. And when we're being physical with each other, there's already usually some sort of like, you can smell them or touch them, or there's something you already know about a person in a way through proximity. But without that, with the screen, I was touched by that we can do that. We can just be that intimate with each other, even though it's just like a screen. It's a moment in the screen.
I just, I felt like as soon as I entered the space with both of you, Jackie and Alicia, there was just this smile. There was something that was like present, that kind of was a binding piece that just felt safe. There's always that thing about the unknown, kind of stepping into the unknown, but then finding a certain comfort being there to just kind of take a deep dive. And it felt like we were able to do that. So it made it very special.
We had a slightly awkward thing that I'm not sure how to deal with. But we had somebody in our room that had a black screen and that didn't speak. So they had to accept coming into the room, but we had no idea who was there. So that sense of intimacy was problematic. To have someone, you have no idea who it is. It was just a phone number. And so we had the option to hide them without knowing if that meant they went away or we just didn't deal with them. Any suggestions? I'm totally open to how to deal with that kind of situation.
Alyssa was just in the consent symposium that took place at Earthdance this weekend, or at virtual Earthdance, however you say it. So I'm curious, like, I think you guys talked about that.
I mean, like a number of organizers who are facilitating things on the Zoom platform are looking at how does consent show up and how do we do it in this context. And so one of the things that some of them have been proposing is that you have to ask permission before you pin someone, which we explored in a very different way here when I was pinning you all to be seen and spotlighted. And yeah, there's a lot of organizers who are asking, before you go in a breakout room that you're on video if you're choosing to go into the breakout rooms. So we didn't articulate that. And it's something to think of, both as all of us who are facilitating this space, and also when that does happen, like you're saying, Nita, it's like, okay, so how do we respond to that and engage with someone who we can't see? And, there are reasons sometimes, like I have some friends who are working with brain injuries, and, just if we know that they're here and there's a reason that they're accommodating without sight, then of course it's a totally different situation. So
they also didn't choose to speak.
Sure, yeah. Communication.
Can I ask a question about what Nita raised? Were all three people on video when you put them into the chat room? Into the breakout room?
Yeah, go.
I don't actually know. I thought everyone was on video before we went into it.
That's a thing to check to make sure before you put someone in a breakout room that they're on video. I understood from Nita that was the problem, that you couldn't see the person. So that
my takeaway is, as if I'm in this role again, to double check that. Yep.
Another quick comment about the sort of organizational part. We ran out of time, so maybe just another 2 minutes or something would have been useful.
Cool. Other comments from those who haven't been heard yet? Like Jen Green. It's so sweet to see you, Jen.
I am so in gratitude and reminded, when we do authentic movement in person, how quickly it helps me to get embodied to witness someone else who's embodied, and how that was feasible over the video was awesome. Both witnessings just helps me sink into my own body to witness.
We have a few more minutes in this sort of experience. I'm happy for people to keep on talking about their experience of moving or of witnessing, and also in these last minutes, I really also want to open it up to hearing people's experience of what's happening in their world, where they're coming from, what's going on in their lives. Like it's a time for us also to connect in that way. So both are now welcome for like the last few minutes before Lindsay closes it out and says some Earthdance announcements. It would be really lovely to hear from those who haven't yet spoken, and just to hear either like where you're at now in your body, like what is actually what's your experience in this moment right now, and anything else that you want to share that would help like bring us into your world.
I can say something. Hey everybody, this is Erin from New York City Epicenter.
And along with being in the epicenter, I'm dealing with like a really bad hip injury that's very painful. And it was really hurting a lot at the beginning of class, but something happened when it was my turn. I went third. And all of a sudden it was like my body just organized to do the task, or to, like, I don't know. It was like I was the self-portrait group. And it was something really, really special to have the force in the positive sense of the word of other people's gaze. And I think it made me reflect a lot on all the integration that we're each doing right now of this crazy upended thing that's been happening to all of our lives. And how do we find grounding in that? And deeper, larger questions of like, why do we do what we do? And why is dance important? And what can it bring to people? And yeah, 3 minutes. I was astonished.
I've been really thinking about dance as resilience, as a, movement really as an expression of agency, and movement as a form of resilience, over and over and over and over again. And part of this score, I feel like, was fed by that investigation that's really alive for me right now.
This thing that's you, but it's also way bigger than you, way, way bigger than you. And that for me, I guess, dealing with like the acuteness of pain, it helped me get over that, get around that, not even think of that.
It's Maida again. I wanted to say how much I appreciated that part of the second phase where we're choosing. I think I've been doing quite a few online movements and haven't been able to feel how to have like kind of a development, and having that like development actually being chosen for me was actually really helped me actually be able to respond, instead of me trying to choose somebody and then engaging with the computer, like knowing that somebody was caring for that for me and that I could respond to it in real time actually allow that to happen. So I'm going to bring that to my other groups for sure. Yeah, underscore.
I have a question.
Okay, I'm sorry, I must be hearing reverb. I had someone I knew in my breakout room as well as that person that I didn't know, that neither one of us knew. And it was really very delicious to be witness to Jeremy, who I know his movement, and just watching him take the time to be in a sensory place, which he did. He did not get into the relationship between his performative self, because he's a wonderful performer, and also just him being there in his room. It was beautiful to see. It allowed me to step into that thing that we call authentic movement. And it was beautiful. I really appreciate it, Jeremy. Thank you.
I want to resonate with what Meta just said. This is the second time that I've done a Zoom dance jam. And first of all, I'm sorry that I showed up as late as I did. I would have loved to do the first part. but everything that I took part in, I really appreciated the focus being, the screen being on only one person, because it's just it's just too much to send my attention into so many different worlds. And also, if I want to focus on someone, to focus on something this big, it's a little bit easier to focus on something this big. So I was able to be a little bit more with people, but it's such a weird experience, and I kind of love it. I kind of love the telescoping my awareness so far out. It's so appropriate to this moment. And the other thing that I felt, I mean, on one hand, there's a sadness to dancing in a way in a way that requires this like kind of visual computer focus. And at the same time, these two Zoom jams that I've had have been the only times that I've been so embodied while being at a computer. And I love that I can expand the world of the computer into my physical space. That's been really positive. Yeah.
To add on that, I've been on a few Zoom things now, and each one I feel like there's this creativity that's happening, experimentation that's happening with this new medium. And not something I would have chosen, but I keep being continually surprised by what emerges, and appreciating, you know, the creativity that comes with limitation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, something I find really interesting is that even though we're here saying we're doing contact, I'm fairly convinced in 20 years down the line, this won't be contact. This will be something completely different. This is something that will become ingrained in our society. And so I think it's really cool to, in a sense, be part of something when it's beginning. So that's, I think, a really interesting thing, is that there's so many new elements to this that are really cool.
I think there is something about seeing people in their homes doing movement, and seeing them, especially authentic movement, I felt like I was seeing the way in which they were, like, what they had to deal with in their home, or like what was going on for them there. Yeah, but I'm finding this whole thing really interesting.
It kind of reminds me of, you know, like what you're saying and what Jeremy was saying, is there's this really interesting dialectic that's happening where it's like all these layers of intimacy that I've never experienced. Like, I've never witnessed someone in their living room without me in their living room doing authentic movement. You know, like, this is a level of intimacy of witnessing someone in their home. And there's a level of intimacy of being seen through a screen and in a certain frame. There's like all these layers of both intimacy and accessibility that are just blowing open. And then there's all these other layers. The dialectic is that there's all these other layers of like limitation and separation. Like, it's just like it's like such a rich mess of things. Yeah.
Yeah, in the chat, Colleen wrote, in residency, in residence. Colleen wrote, this is our collective artist residency.
Right. Maybe one more, if someone who hasn't wants to speak something.
So Colleen writes, because their mic isn't working, to be dancing with people virtually that we have physically in the past.
Right.
Is what they're finding really interesting.
it's a funny situation to like be in a shared quiet space where we're all like just kind of like looking at a screen together in like solidarity and in isolation. And it's another dialectic that I find really interesting. We have this tradition, and it's like at the end, it's 8:30. We kind of like go into a silent mode for a little while, and we keep the chat open. And as you're leaving, say goodbye on the chat, or feel free to chat everyone or to chat someone privately. And we just like keep the lines of communication open in that way while we all sort of peter off and out of this experience. So I want Lindsay to say a couple of things to close us out. And again, I want to thank all of you so much for being in this weird and wacky experiment together. And going on, like what Alicia was saying, on these like really creative journeys with the limitations that we're all experiencing right now.
Yeah, here. I really echo all of this, like really fascinating dialogue that we're having. So Ari asked, when's the next one? It's going to be next Sunday at the same time with Nita Little, who's here tonight, which is so wonderful. Thanks for being here, Nita. And I don't know if you want to say anything quickly about next week. You can leave it a surprise if you want.
Yeah, well, I'm right now figuring out what it is I want to bring to our work next week. I love the opportunity to be authentic, to do authentic movement here, and I am really in a deep investigation in my work of what it means to be relational, how we can think, act, be an alternative human that is not solely culturally constrained. So I'm really looking at what is it that we can do that we don't know we can do in our relational practices. So somewhere, something from that will emerge next week. And I'm looking very forward to being with you. And Brando and Alyssa, thank you very much for holding this space. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks, Nita. That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I just want to repeat this phrase. What is it we can do that we don't know we can do? So please come next week. And I also want to invite everybody to a Zoom panel talk that Earthdance is hosting this Wednesday at 12 Eastern Time. And it's going to be with two people who are doing a Viewpoints, 6 Viewpoints online workshop next month. That's Deborah Black and Sophia Trenner, who have both worked really closely with Mary Overly. So the Viewpoints is another practice that that hopefully we can really harvest from this during this time. And then also we'll be joined by Deirdre Morris and Esther Baker Tarpaga, who both do site responsive performance. So the panel talk is called Performance Practices for a Precarious Planet. And it's going to be a really interesting conversation about performance, about composition, about cultivating presence and being in our bodies during this time. So please come and come next week. And thanks for being here tonight. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. Oh, and thank you, Colleen, for sharing that Mary Overly is, her health is really declining right now, and her family is raising money to help get her care. And if anyone has the link, maybe we can pop that into the chat, but if you're able to donate to that cause, that's a really important one, because this person who's been so influential just doesn't have the support that she needs for her health.
I forgot, there's one other thing that I like to do is I like to shout out to people who are really far away. And I just saw in the chat, I didn't recognize that was you, Martin. Martin Hughes is here from Australia. Really long time dear friend of Earthdance and a pioneer in contact improvisation and in like basically the father figure of the Australian contact improvisation scene. Such an honor to have you here, man. God, I was just chatting you up. I want to connect with you soon and get you to teach. You want to say anything about your experience from across the world?
Hi, it's morning here. Good morning. It's Monday morning here. Yeah, it's very strange. That's, you know, we're all experiencing that. Our jam, it's sad. Our jam's been going for 27 years every Tuesday night without fail. And we had to close it 2 months ago. What's really been beautiful actually is we gathered together on Zoom to see if we could keep it going vicariously. And the strongest feedback from people was, well, maybe not yet. We just needed time to gather with our families and feel safe and feel secure in our own places. And then, but people are slowly doing things. You might like to join us. God knows what time it is, but at 5 o'clock every day now, we're doing the stand, 5 p.m. I can send out the link to you all. It's actually, it's only 10 minutes. It's quite delicious. But that's what we've come to so far.
Martin, do you have any, can I put you on the spot? You want to teach in a couple weeks? I would love to. Let me experience a few. I'm going to join in. But that would be, I mean, one of the beauties of this is I'm still in Australia and yet I'm seeing all of you. And right. I could theoretically dance with you again. I could be dancing at Earthdance again. Oh my God. It'll make me cry. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Yeah. Would love to have you. Would be honored to have you. So we'll keep on talking about that.
Thank you, Brandon.
Cool. We've gone a little bit over tonight, but for me it's just been so sweet to see those of you who continue to return. I love the community that we're building around this class, and then the new faces, and you know, my teachers and people who have influenced me so much over the years, and dear friends and old friends. So I just feel really touched by my experience tonight, and I want to thank you all for being part of that and being part of this experiment.